Alright, what's up guys? In today's video, we're going to talk about what is the best long-range rifle to use right now in Warzone. As you guys know, a lot of the guns were buffed, and then a couple of the guns were nerfed. So we're going to take a look at what I think are the top 8 most popular and also the best assault rifles to use at the long range. I'll tell you guys what I think is the current best meta weapon. So if you guys do enjoy the content, please make sure you guys do hit the subscribe button if you guys are new to the channel. Like I said, if you do enjoy, make sure you guys leave a like and a comment down below. What we're going to take a look at in today's video is going to be the QBZ and the Fara, the Krig and the C58. And then from Modern Warfare, we have the Kilo, the Grau, the M4, and the M13. In order to get the overall stats as far as our recoil, mobility, and range, and then obviously time to kill, we have to take a look at the best class setup of all these guns, which you guys will see down on the bottom of the screen. Pretty much all built the exact same way. Longest long barrel with the Agent Sear Model Expressor, Axial Arms 3x or VLK. Then we have the Field Agent or the Commando foregrip with a 60 round mag. The only gun that has a different class setup is the C58. Those are the overall class setups. The reason I did pick these guns, which I want to showcase real quick for you guys. So we're going to take a quick look at is how these weapon changes actually affect some of these guns. Two of the guns that went unaffected, number one was the Kilo and Fara. Technically they had no change to really anything. Obviously the Fara was nerfed to lower its overall damage, which only had one effect, which changed the headshot needed and the base time to kill from 1 to 2. With the M13 increasing the damage from 19 to 20, it requires one less shot to kill. And then you also got from 28 to 30 in the head. So now you also get a faster time to kill, and included with that faster time to kill, you do now require less headshots, which is going to make the headshot effectiveness better. With that of the QBZ, the damage profile changed completely, as you guys can see. Pre-patch was 11 shots to kill. Post-patch is now only 9, which is massive. So you went from about 1,000 millisecond time to kill down to about 700, which is a massive 30% improvement. With the M4, they actually nerfed the close range and then buffed the long range. Pre-patch was 3322. Post-patch is now 34-23. Basically takes it from 12 shots to kill down to 11, which obviously increased the long-range time to kill by about 80 milliseconds or so. With the Grau, they did increase the headshot from 33 to 36, which obviously if you compare to the M4 is only 34-23. So you get 2 more damage to the head and 1 more to the body, which not only increases your overall time to kill, but also increases your effectiveness of headshots. So for the effectiveness of headshots, I mean, it requires less headshots to lower the time to kill. So pre-patch this would have been 2. Post-patch is now only 1 headshot needed. So the one thing here with the Krig, obviously the damage profile went up by 1 point only. Pre-patch did require 3 headshots. Post-patch only requires 2. So basically your headshot is a little bit more effective. That's about it. So that basically covers all of the actual changes. What I want to take a look next is why we actually pick these guns. This is the website that I use to get a lot of my data that kind of helps me to make better videos in my opinion. So the pick ratio here is basically how popular the weapon is. You guys can see the Krig is obviously number 1 with the Fara dropping massively. Previously this was 20%, now it's 8.5%. The Grau is actually currently the 3rd most popular AR, with the C58 being 4th. Then we have the M13, Kilo, and M4. The one reason I do not have the XM4 in here, a lot of you guys probably want to know. Number 1, the recoil got nerfed, and then the TTK got nerfed. So as far as your effectiveness for a long-range weapon, nerfing both those things, while this gun has some of the worst range out of every AR in the game, I believe is the absolute worst out of all these guns on the list here. Those 3 things just make this gun not good at long range. That is the reason I picked these guns. If you're wondering why the RAM or XM4 AMAX is not on here, they're just not as popular. People aren't using them. That is the reason I picked these guns. What I want to take a look at first is going to be the overall recoil of these guns, because with a lot of the changes for them, and then like I said with that C58 having the 4X, the recoil is a massive difference between a lot of these guns, which you guys will see right now. So what you guys can see on the screen, this is the 8 recoil patterns of the weapons. The C58 and the Krig, you guys can see in the 3rd box, are absolute standouts. Like I said, this is what the 4X is. C58 actually has the best recoil pattern, so it might be the least forgiving with overall fire rate. Might not kill as fast as it used to, but accuracy-wise, I think it's the best. With the Krig right there tied with it. You can see with that Krig, extremely stable. It does have a couple of movements where it moves a little bit. The C58 is probably a little bit straighter, but it's definitely top tier. The one gun that was a massive surprise to me is the QBZ. As weird as it has one pulled left, one pulled right, which is why I always do 2 recoil patterns. That was a bit surprising to me that it pulled left and then pulled right, but it pretty much pulls vertical and then pulls at the very end of the last 60 bullets to the right or the left. So definitely has a very minimal amount of recoil. The Fara, which you guys can see right next to it, has an extreme amount of recoil, absolutely the most vertical recoil. Extremely stable, which is what makes it excellent, but it kicks a lot. And compared to what it used to be next to the QBZ. It used to have the same amount of recoil as the QBZ, so now it kicks twice as much with those 60 bullets, which is a huge negative. If you compare it to that of the Grau, the Grau does have less recoil, which is probably why it's one of the most popular weapons. M4, M13 is basically like the same recoil pattern, with the M13 just having significantly less recoil, which is why I think it's be one of the guns that rises in the meta. So recoil wise, M4 would be the worst. M13 would be right behind it as number 7. The reason for me why the Kilo is not going to be as popular and why I'm not a fan of it, it does have the least amount of recoil, but it pulls up to the left, and you can see it's kind of like just moving a little bit. It's not like straight, doesn't pull up into the right. It kind of just like moves in a weird pattern, which is not as consistent. I've always found that to be the problem with the Kilo for me. It doesn't have a consistent recoil pattern, which you kind of have to counter for. With the Fara, it pulls straight up. You can just pull down to counter for that. The Grau, same thing. The C58, the Krig, the QBZ all pull straight up, just pull down. With the M4 and M13, you just pull left. With the Kilo, you got to pull down and to the back to the right, which is unconventional, which is why I'm not a fan of it. But the QBZ was a standout. The Grau is excellent. C58 and the Krig are 100% the most accurate weapons, which is why I think they're going to be 2 of the best weapons moving forward. So we're going to take a look next is the range, velocity, overall ability stats to kind of break down a little bit more data for you guys to help diversify these weapons and see which ones are best. So what you guys can see on the screen right now, this is going to be the overall mobility, velocity, and range of these guns. Number 1, we have the ADS speed. You guys can see the guns that are in green in the boxes are the guns that are good in that category. The guns in red are the guns that are bad in that category. So the reason the M13 is excellent is it has the fastest ADS. The QBZ, which is one of the few guns I just tested, has an incredibly fast ADS, which is 100% going to make it in the meta. Like I said, with that 45 round mag in the C58, it has a 383 ADS, which is still very fast. If you're in the 55, this goes to 417, which is then going to chank it pretty hard. So I do not recommend it. The one huge guns here on the negative, number 1 M4, 434 is atrocious, almost LMG level. The reason the Fara is on the low end is 417, Kilo 417. As far as movement, Cold War guns versus Modern Warfare guns. The Modern Warfare guns, pretty much every attachment tanks the movement speed. Cold War guns have no attachment that affect that. So QBZ, Krig, and C58 are all excellent. Fara is average. Then obviously Grau, M13, Kilo, and M4 are atrocious. I think the movement speed has a huge factor in why a lot of these guns are more popular. As far as why the Krig is more popular than the Grau, 10% faster movement in the late game is 100% helping you get out of the gas faster and get better rotations in. So if this was like 2%, not a big deal. But when you go from 87 to 97, that is a massive change. As far as the reload, there is a reason I run the 60-round fast mag on the Krig. That is because the reload is 1.3 seconds, which is the fastest out of all these guns, which is one thing that's going to help give it an advantage. Fara is absolutely atrocious in the reload category. There's no gun that competes with it as far as how bad it is besides an LMG. And the C58 is below average as well. All these other guns are just pretty good at reloading. As far as velocity, this is going to affect your time to kill as far as how much it's going to nerf it. As far as having better velocity makes your time to kill faster. Also improves your accuracy. Obviously, all the Modern Warfare guns are in green. The Fara is actually on the low end here, so another red bar in the category of the Fara. As far as range, the M13 might be the slowest killing gun out of the 8, but does have the second best range. So after all these guns drop off, the Fara, the C58, the M4, the QBZ, the Kilo, and the Grau, After their drop off, the M4 is going to kill faster. So from 40 to 50 meters, the M13 kills faster than the Fara, the C50, and the QBZ, which is 100% going to help it. Then the Krig, one of the reasons it's probably the best gun right now is that it has the best range. As far as the fire, everybody always wants me to include it. The C58 is not as forgiving. The Krig is not as forgiving. Those are the only two real negatives. And the M13, the reason it's one of the most popular guns, 900 rounds per minute, extremely forgiving. If you look at the M13, it has top tier range, the best fire rate, good velocity, and the fastest ADS. The only gun that has 4 of these category. The only other gun that has 3 would be the Krig. Fastest reload, best range, and the second best mobility, which is why it's one of the most popular guns. So if you go through and take a look at the QBZ, it's average in fire rate, average in reload, average in velocity, below average in range, but has a fast ADS and a good movement. So if you're an aggressive AR player, the reason I have this in the meta, it's just good. It just blends right in with all these other guns. Previously it did not. So those are the overall mobility stats. We're going to take a look next is how all these numbers affect the time to kill, and then kind of break down how headshots are also included now, because that did change with this new update. So let's take a look at that. All right, so on the screen you guys will see this is the chart that shows you the time to kills of all of the weapons. In the red and the green, we have the Fara and the QBZ. The Fara is the fastest killing weapon, but it does have the least amount of base range, which is obviously a big negative about it. The one huge standout, which like I just said, the QBZ here in green. 618 millisecond time to kills, about identical to the Fara with better range. And you guys can see where it drops off with the Fara is also now the second fastest killing gun above the 56 meter mark. So up to 46 meters is the second fastest killing gun, and then beyond 56 meters is once again the second fastest killing gun, which in my opinion is what makes it incredible. The gun absolutely shreds, and it's definitely a gun you should be trying, but with the Fara is definitely still one of the best weapons. The third weapon we want to take a look at here is going to be the Krig in white. You guys can see after the 50 meters, I think that's the kilo, where the kilo drops off. The Krig from 50 to 56 meters is the fastest killing weapon by a lot. And then after it drops off, beyond the 56 meters is still the third fastest killing weapon with an excellent accuracy. So those are easily, in my opinion, as far as TTK wise, the top 3 killing weapons. The one gun that took a huge negative, which you guys can see in yellow, where it just jumps straight up at the very beginning. They end up buffing the range of the CFD, which helped it a little bit. But TTK wise, it's average. And then when it drops out at 40 meters, which is the lowest range of these 8 weapons, you guys can see it now is absolutely atrocious. So from 40 all the way to 50 and then 54 meters, the CF8 is actually the slowest killing weapon, which is a huge negative for the weapon. So like I said, it has good everything else, excellent accuracy with the 4X on there, but TTK wise from 40 all the way out to the 50 meters is one of the slowest killing weapons. And then even from there is also the slowest, the third slowest, even after all the guns drop off. So TTK wise, I do have the C58 as actually the slowest. The one thing we'll take a look at in just a second is headshots and how that affects these 3 guns that are the slowest killing, because that's a huge factor. As far as the kilo, the M4, they're just average. They don't do anything. They're not really that good. They're just average. The 3 lows are going to be the C58, the Grau, and the M13, which you guys can see in obviously yellow, and then 2 blues, which like stand out above that 50 meter mark as extremely slower. And like I said, the 3 standouts are the Fara, the QBZ, and the Krig, which the QBZ, as I'm saying, one of the best killing weapons, is an absolute and utter surprise. They massively buffed this weapon. So in order to take a look at the simplest chart, I have a breakdown of all the time to kill to show you guys which one I think is best where. So these are the charts which I found in my head a little bit easy to understand about which guns are the fastest killing and where. When you start to take a look at their overall ranges and then obviously rank them, have them color coordinated so it makes it a little bit easier for you guys. So you guys can see up to the base range about 45 meters where a lot of these guns are going to drop off. The Fara is actually the fastest killing gun with the QBZ in second and the Kilo and Krig in third and fourth. The M4 and M13 are on the low end. Like I said, M13 does have good range. The M4 doesn't. TTK wise, the M4 is very competitive, but it's just not there in my opinion. So after we lose the Fara, the QBZ, the C58, and the M4, the Kilo is king from 45 to 50 meters. Obviously, at 50 meters, we lose the Kilo and Grau. Krig is now in second. The one absolute huge and utter disappointment you will see here, the C58, this is what they nerfed, drops down to last place. Anywhere from 45 to 56 meters, the C58 is one of the slowest killing guns. It's absolutely atrocious in time to kill at the long range now, which is what they nerfed about the guns. So, in my opinion, it's a little bit better in the mid-range, is not competitive in the long range. When we go through and take a look at the headshots, as I said, you guys will see the big difference here in how headshots affect this gun and make it excellent. But as I said, the Krig is number 2, where the Kilo and Grau drop off. The Krig is still number 1. So the one standout you here we'll see is the M13 went from last place to now second. So all these guns drop off. That's where the range, in my opinion, is a huge factor. It's the second fastest killing gun from 50 to 56 meters, which is what makes it excellent. So if you take a look at basically from 0 to 45, and then from 56 plus, which are the two most important numbers, you go through and just basically delete this. From 0 to 45 meters, then from 56 meters plus, the fastest killing guns, number 1 is the Fara. The reason this gun is, in my opinion, still one of the best weapons, it's one of the fastest killing guns, and out of all these guns is the fastest killing. There's only 11 meters of range where it's not the fastest killing gun. The QBZ, the reason this gun is, in my opinion, going to be one of the best weapons to at least try and see if you do like it. 707 is incredibly fast. This is with chest shots only, which requires 100% chest shots like the old AMAX. If you don't get chest shots, you get one stomach shot. Drops down here to the 800 mark near the Kilo and the C58. So, gun is top tier. With the buff of the M4 at 741, kills just as fast as the Krig. Obviously not the most accurate weapon, but the Krig is still in the top 4 at about 740. Is still a very fast killing weapon. Talking about like a 37 milliseconds and then about 60 here. Probably so minimal you wouldn't notice it in game. With the Krig having half the recoil of the Fara, I think the ability to maintain at 683 is not as practical as the ability to maintain the 744. So I think the Krig TTK wise is still excellent. You guys can see is 4th and then 4th. So in the top 4 both times. The C58 is tier and then drops off, is below average now. The Grau and M13 are also obviously below average. And the reason the Kilo is not meta is it's also below average. So the two guns that, in my opinion, stand out in the overall time to kill category, which, like I said, when looking at the chart made sense. This makes a little more sense for me, to easier to read. Fara and the QBZ. They just absolutely crushed in this category. The QBZ is almost as accurate as the Krig and the C58, which is what makes it excellent. So you go through and take a look at the headshots. We'll see how these numbers are changed when you include headshots of some of these lower tier weapons. So the one thing I did want to take a look at as far as how the time to kills are affected was overall headshots. As I said, the Grau and M13 both got improved damage, which helps lower the headshots, and the Krig also got improved damage, which helps lower the headshots. But the two standouts here, number 1 is the Grau, number 2 is the M13. Both now only require one headshot. With one headshot, they both drop down to about 740 from the 800 mark, which puts them now average. They are now tied with the Krig and the M4 as far as TTK with one headshot, which I think is pretty easy to do. The one standout here, though, is going to be that C58. It's below average in overall time to kill, but with one headshot is now the fastest killing gun. With that 4x on there, you can get a massive zoom in and pretty much zoom in on their head much better than these other guns, which I think one headshot is extremely practical. All these other guns requiring 2 is just average. And the one big gun in the negative here is going to be the QBZ. Requires at least 4 headshots. So not as practical. Definitely something you're going to have to look out for. Alright, so the last and final part is obviously the rankings. Basically what's good about the guns and why I rank them where I rank them. The Krig is number 1. And for me, the reason is it really has no negatives. With the buff they did, the one negative it had pre-patch was one of the only guns that required 3 or more headshots at the long range, which majority of the other guns were either 1 or 2. Now that it requires 2 headshots, just like 4 of the other weapons, it's now average in that category. So the negative that it had pre-patch in my opinion, is not there. It is, in my opinion, TTK wise in the top 4 in the base range and above the 56 meter mark where it drops off. So TTK wise is excellent. Range wise is the best. Accuracy wise, in my opinion, is the best. So a gun that has no weaknesses is obviously going to be the best. And the fact that they buffed the damage to improve it, which was already the one good thing about it, is the damage per mag. This gun does have a very high damage, and it has 60 rounds. It does a lot of damage, which was improved, which in my opinion is why I have it as number 1. The number 2 weapon I have, this is based on all the facts that I've read. I have not used this gun in game yet. TTK wise is incredible. It's the second fastest killing gun up to the base range at 46 meters, and then above 56 meters is the second fastest killing gun. It has a low recoil, high accurate weapon. Mobility wise is excellent. It has a good ADS, a good movement, and an excellent stray speed. So mobility wise, for the close range, if you're under that 46 meters, I think it's probably the best gun out of all these guns. The only real negative would be as far as to maintain that 707 TTK at that max range, you need 100% chest shots. That's the only negative about this gun that I could find. It does everything. It does everything well, just like the Krig, but requiring 100% chest shots anywhere beyond 60 meters is obviously not as practical. So your TTK is going to drop from 700 down to 800, which is going to go down to below average. So as far as for a good mid-range weapon, I think that's the QBZ. I do have a ranked number 2 just based on all the facts that I've looked at, not actual in-game use yet. So the Fara I still have as my top 3 weapon. They did nerf the recoil. All they did is add more vertical, which is not going to be as noticed, because this gun does have an excellent recoil pattern. It's very stable, very easy to use, and with the TTK being so good, once again, fastest killing gun under 40 meters and above 56 meters, just like the old AMAX. A lot of these guns, the CWMP5 that went to the top. Guns that kill fast will always rise in the meta, which is why I still think this is either number 2 or number 3 most popular assault rifle. The 2 big negatives: number 1, obviously the recoil was nerfed, and your ADS speed and your reload speed is not the best. The reload, to me, is a huge negative. If I kill somebody and I gotta reload and I'm trying to kill the person that's downed, that 2.5 second reload is definitely gonna make a difference. But it's still, TTK wise, which I think is probably one of the most important stats, is a top weapon, and it's still accurate. As far as the reason I do have the Grau at number 4, number 1, it has good range. Number 2, it has good accuracy. With the buff, it now only needs 1 headshot at the max range to kill faster than the Kilo, which in my opinion is what makes it excellent. And with that 1 headshot, you now kill as fast as the Krig, which also makes it excellent. Without headshots, it's a slow killing gun. It's average or below average above the max range. Being a modern warfare gun, terrible in mobility. Those are the top 4 guns. I'm the biggest fan of the Grau, which is why I do have it in the top 4. I just think it's highly accurate, and the gun doesn't miss. If you compare the recoil to the M13, the Kilo, or the M4, I think it's the most accurate of those 4 guns, which is why I do have it in my top 4. And as you guys saw, players are actually using it because of those stats. So outside the top 4, I would personally rank the C58 and the M13 better than the Kilo and the M4. The C58 with that 4X has godly accuracy. It kills fast in the base range, and then at range only needs 1 headshot to be the fastest killing gun, which is what makes it excellent. The one big negative, like I said, was from that 50 meter or from the 40 meter mark where it drops off to like the 55 where all the other guns drop off. It's going to be the slowest killing gun in that one like 15 meter mark. But beyond that, if you get an extra headshot, it's going to be one of the fastest killing guns, which is what makes it incredible. The only real negative, like I said, is just that killing time in that mid mark, but you can counter that by getting 1 headshot. So I still think it's top 5. The 3 guns on the bottom, you guys can see all modern warfare guns. The obvious reason, number 1, mobility. These guns have terrible mobility, and then as far as the M4, not as accurate. The Kilo, not as accurate. TTK wise for the Kilo, doesn't kill as fast. And then TTK wise with the M13 also doesn't kill as fast. So they have kind of the same things they're not as accurate. They don't kill as fast. The mobility wise, they're atrocious. So that is why I have them ranked 6, 7, and 8. You can put them whatever numbers you want. I just think the 5 best assault rifles right now to use in long range: C58, Grau, Fara, QBZ, and Krig. I know it was a really long video. I've been trying to record this video for like 3 days to get as much info as I can for you guys to make it as long and in-depth as possible. If you guys did enjoy the video, as always, leave a like and a comment down below. And if you guys are still watching and you have not yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button down below. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you.